Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. In this video I want to show you guys kind of somewhat a new model from Clyde Challenor. There's a little bit of a story behind it, so hopefully you will bear with me. But first I do want to declare my biases, since that's apparently in vogue these days. But I've probably bought 7 or 8 customs from Clyde Challenor over the years. He's someone I consider a friend, and I always look forward to seeing him at Blade Show. So I think he's a wonderful human being, and I think he's absolutely a maker worth supporting. So those are my biases. Let's get into the Viper here. So a little bit of a backstory on this particular model. This model was actually introduced at Blade Show 2019. It is designed by Francois Nel, and then of course, made and built by Clyde Challenor. But Clyde brought 5 models to the Blade Show 2019, and he built them in what he calls South African style, since he is a South African maker. This was one of the original 5. This one is done in Damacor steel, obviously a very special steel. But this one is done on washers instead of bearings. This one does have the opening hole, which is now absent on the new models, and it is done with a really strong lock bar tension. So the strong lock bar tension plus the washers, Clyde calls that the South African style, since that's apparently how they prefer their knives down there. So anyways, this was one of the original 5. There's actually been quite a bit of updating and refining to the overall model. This one does show the carbon fiber inlays, whereas this one is kind of a plain Jane model. And yeah, we'll talk about kind of what's available in the specs, but just wanted to show you guys this one. And yeah, a lot of similarities, of course, since it's the same model, but it is built in a different style, and there's very few of them out there. Again, on washers with the stronger lock bar tension. It does have the older hardware as well. So let me show you the new one here. Gosh, there's so much to talk about. But let me share a little bit of background first. So this was introduced Blade Show 2019, and then Clyde basically went missing in action for about a year and a half, close to 2 years now. He was in the process of moving his CNC machine from his friend's shop, Luke Princeton, who was doing a lot of the machining for him, into his shop, since Luke was becoming too busy to be able to run Clyde's CNC. So Clyde moved his CNC in-house, and he was getting that all set up, obviously getting familiar with the code and the machines running and all that other fun stuff. And then COVID hit, and Clyde became super busy with work, and that's kind of turned in from 6 months. COVID happened, and then we're a year and a half later, and he's now back to making knives part-time. He still does have a full-time job. The crew actually has 2 other people aside from Clyde now. There is Dylan, who is a tool and die maker, very talented guy, Clyde says, and then Blessing, who obviously helps out in the shop. They are only producing 4 to 5 knives a month. He is booked out till November, but his books are open. So if you do want to get on his books, you certainly can. And again, I would recommend it before it gets pushed out a year to a year and a half. So we're still kind of in a 6-month range at the moment, which is pretty fantastic for a maker of his caliber. All right, so that's a little bit of the background. So let's talk about these specs on this one. This is a 3.5-inch blade with a 4.5-inch handle. Blade stock is about 0.15 inches, and thickness behind the edge is 25 thousandths. So nice hollow grind, comes down to a really thin edge, cuts beautifully. This is obviously done in the reverse Tonto style, although he also does this model in a drop point blade shape. He will do Dama steel blades, Damacor if you want to source it, apparently, RWL 34, M390 like this one. He'll do a stonewash if you want it. This one's done in a hand rub satin, of course. Handles are titanium. It does weigh in at 3.97 ounces on my scale. Ceramic bearings, stainless steel lock insert. There's some other details we'll get into as we take a look at it, but here it is against another fairly comparable in terms of kind of size and overall shape. We have the Benchmade 940, also with that beautiful reverse Tonto blade shape. A little bit of difference in the profiling, of course. But one thing that this knife does well, and as does the 940, is it's what I call kind of a little big knife. When the knife is closed and in pocket, it really takes up very little space. It's long and slender. It's not terribly thick. But when you open, both are the same obviously, but when you open the knife, you get really good ergonomics, and you definitely get a full-size knife that's very capable. So carries significantly smaller than its utility would make you think. So again, I kind of refer to them as little big knives. The 940 does a great job of that. A few other models in his lineup here. We do have the Talon, which is a smaller model, and then we have the Raptor 2, which is a significantly larger model. So, you know, I've got 4 knives from Clyde, and he's the only maker from whom I own 4 knives, and again, that's for a very good reason. He does a tremendous job of partnering CNC with a lot of handmade precision to really kind of produce an amazing product. So, you know, I don't care what methods you use as long as you tell me and the end product, you know, justifies the price and the means. So let's talk about price real quick. Since you know that these are essentially available, you can get a book spot. This bare bones model here starts at $750 shipped, which is arguably incredible value. There are a couple options that you guys can get into. So you can do composite inlays like carbon fiber here, that adds $100. You could do exotic inlays like Damascus, that would add $200, and then of course you can do, you know, Damasteel options if you want for an extra $200. So, you know, if you want to go wild and do Damascus and Damasteel on this model, fully spec'd out, that would only be about $1150, which again, for those materials for this caliber is really good value. So price range of $750 to $1150. There are makers who charge, you know, double that, and they don't produce knives half as nice. So yeah, let me show you guys kind of in detail here. I've rambled on for about 7 minutes, but there's that beautiful hand rub satin. Take a look at the jimping up top. This is a front flipper, of course, and so the jimping is actually really important. As you can see, it goes kind of from a wider gradation down to a much thinner. The jimping is actually done on the wire EDM machine. Apparently that's the only way that you could get jimping this consistent and this fine. So it does an amazing job. In terms of the action, this is the best front flipper I've ever handled. And obviously that's saying something. I've handled some truly incredible front flippers, you know, from Custom Knife Factory, other custom makers. This just has such a clean and crisp break, and the jimping is perfect. So it's the best front flipper I've ever handled. All right, so that was the blade. I think didn't miss anything. The blade is completely sterile. There's his maker's mark, just very tastefully done on the handle. Speaking of the handle, here's one of the things that is truly incredible: the absolutely seamless pivot. And I mean, honestly, you cannot really tell where one starts, the other ends. Obviously, it's a captured pivot. Let me show you the other side. Nice big torque screw. And then the shape of the pivot has essentially been mirrored in the milling that they did. So it's not, you know, just completely bare on one side. We've got a mirroring of the kind of the mill marks here, and then the pivot shape. Really nice touch. Same thing with the body screw at the back here. And again, just seamless precision. And the really interesting thing is, obviously this is a contoured plane, and yet it is absolutely perfect. It's also hand rubbed, of course, to, you know, match the way that the blade has been finished, and gives it a nice, again, kind of a transparent, seamless look throughout the knife. So the knife does employ a stainless steel lock insert, and one interesting thing I won't be able to show you here, but the detent ball is actually pressed into the titanium. It's not pressed into the stainless steel lock insert, and that gives it a little bit more flex, and it makes the ball less likely to pop out. So that's something Clyde's been doing for quite a while. He went ahead and polished kind of the tip of that screw there for the stainless steel lock insert, just to, again, be a nice detail, make sure there's nothing sharp there. 3D milled pocket clip. It's been cut out on the inside for the lock bar. Single standoff. One thing, again, that also Clyde does is all of his machining on the blade and his grinding is all done post-heat treat to ensure that there's no warpage on the knife. So that's actually a really cool picture, or a really cool feature, but I did want to show you guys a picture here of what the milling looks like on the blade, because it's actually quite interesting. And again, we're going kind of low budget here since I don't have a bunch of sugar daddies on Patreon. So I'm going to show you guys, this is what the milling looks like on the inside of the blade. And then the ceramic bearings actually seat in the blade. And so what that does is it provides lateral stability on the knife, and again, everything's running on a hardened surface there. He also has the stainless steel racers protecting the titanium from the ceramic bearings. So again, all of that was done post heat treat, and it's just a lot of really nice work. And then of course you can see the little ramp there for the detent ball. So yeah, just again, a lot of precision. There's some beautiful kind of chamfering here around the tang of the blade. Necessary? Nope, you probably wouldn't ever see that, but it's really cool. He also carbidized the lock interface on the blade, and you won't be able to see it, but he carbidized the stainless steel lock insert too. Unnecessary in a way, but what that does is that helps prevent the the two hardened surfaces from sliding against each other. But even though they're both carbidized, there's no stick whatsoever. So again, centering's perfect. Action is amazing. Ergonomically, it is wonderful in hand. You guys can see all that shape there. There was some additional milling done here for the first finger choil as compared to the original, which was one of the details. They got a little bit more kind of creative here on some of the milling. So yeah, and look at the difference in the body screws there. The point of balance is right at the first finger choil, so it's very well balanced. But again, I just think it's incredible work. So, if I had to sum it up, I think, again, Clyde does an amazing job of kind of meeting CNC technology, wire EDM with a lot of hand grinding and hand work to really produce an amazing product at a really good price. So, he's produced a number of models, from the handmaids to some of these ones that employ CNC, and I honestly think this is his best model to date. Don't get me wrong, I mean, I love some of my other models here, but I think from an kind of an ergonomic and packing the most blade that you can into the smallest handle, I think the Viper does an amazing job of that. So again, if you're interested, now would be a good time to jump on his books, hit him up on Instagram, or send him an email. I'll put all the appropriate links down in the description box below. And other things, just some other options. Aside from Damascus inlays, he does micarta, G10, carbon fiber, Kevlar, stabilized wood. So yeah, you can get some pretty cool stuff going on with your build. But we'll go ahead and leave it there. Again, a little bit longer video, lots of information I try to pack in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you think Clyde is a maker worth supporting, and if this COVID thing goes away and some of these international makers can make it to Blade Show, probably not this year, but next year, definitely go up, say hi to him, and shake his hand at Blade Show. So, all right, guys, I will leave it there. Thanks again for watching. More content on Instagram and many more videos I need to get done, so I will see you guys soon.